Hola clase, bienvenidos a la clase de arte otra vez. Welcome back to art class. So it's starting to get colder outside, and it is getting close to winter, although I was thinking that maybe our next art project should be around winter, or in Spanish, el invierno. Repita, por favor, el invierno. Muy bien, that just means winter. So I was thinking about that, and if we've ever made snowflakes before, that's kind of like a job that's in art, an art career, which is called being a paper engineer, which you might have never heard before, but it's a really cool job to have as an artist. So first, before we get into what our project's going to be, I want to show you a video that tells you a little bit more about paper engineers and what they do.
Hi, I'm Yujin Kim, and I'm a paper engineer and designer. This is my favorite pop-up card I've ever created. So it's an envelope that when you open, it turns into a pop-up card itself. So my intention here was to use the crease that's connected to the flap of the envelope and turn that into where the pop-up mechanism is attached to. A lot of the concepts that I come up with are about things I really care about. So since a lot of my work is inspired by nature and plants and botanical elements, so I decided to create a pop-up card of a greenhouse. So I really love the delicacy of the little environment that I have created here on this greeting card. A lot of the plants here are tropical plants that I really enjoy. And since I cannot have a lot of these really difficult tropical plants in my own environment, I thought it was really fun to see it in a little mini version. So I also gather a lot of my inspiration from my trips around the world. The camel I met in Morocco at the Zagora Desert, his name was Hamdouche, and we really bonded. So the process that I went around to create this card started with very simple sketch and hand cut pop-up. So I wanted to create a very random, jagged, faceted lump of coal that doesn't have a very symmetrical shape to it. So I played around with the basic structure, started pasting pieces and just folded, and then eventually I got to a shape that I was happy with. And then as you can see, I started drawing directly onto the prototype to see how I can tie in the pop-up into the whole card. It's a perfect card for your naughty friends. So this is my first ever published pop-up book. So these are the sketches I started out with to help me visualize how I wanted to plan out the pop-up book. And here's the final product. So this is my hedgehog Kimchi. There she is. More dimensional. Growing up, I was always fascinated with pop-ups and origami and any kind of paper creation, but I never knew that making pop-ups could be a career. I didn't even know who or what paper engineering was. But eventually I went to college for printmaking, and throughout my college career, a lot of my prints started to become more dimensional and more into paper sculptures. And at the end, I realized, oh, this is what I wanted to do.
I really like that video because it shows an art career that you might have never known about before. And I just really loved how detailed and intricate her designs were. So we're going to do our own with a winter theme pop-up cards. This one right here, I really liked this one because the heart kind of pops out, and I just like the heart design. And then I cut out, kind of cut two pieces of the heart so you could see the blue. But when I folded it up, the little corner of the heart sticks out. So I can show you that right here. So this part of the heart kind of sticks out. And I didn't like that because for an actual card, it kind of gives away the illusion. But I still liked it enough because I wanted to keep it because it looks really cool when it's out like that. And then the other one that I did was with just a couple steps, and then I found I didn't even need that third one, which brings me back to another point of the video that was very important, is that she used her sketchbook a lot. She showed us her different designs, and she showed us her prototype, which is basically just her practice. And so that's what you're going to do this week. You're going to practice, and you're going to sketch, and you're going to sketch out your own designs, and then you're going to play with the paper and see what works for you, because your original design might not work. I know mine didn't. So let's go on, and I will show you the materials that you need. So you need thicker paper for the final, but for week 1, so these are the materials that you need overall. You need some sort of thicker paper, either sketchbook paper or construction paper. It doesn't have to be colored, because you can color it yourself with either markers or crayons, but you definitely do want to have some color. And then you do want some notebook paper to practice with, because it's less inexpensive, and it's easier to fold and manipulate than the construction paper or the sketchbook paper is. So definitely notebook paper to practice, thicker paper for your final. And then you're going to need scissors, of course, to make your cuts, and then some sort of adhesive, either a glue stick, tape, maybe even a stapler if that's all you have, and then something to add color. I had a picture of my favorite pens, but you could use marker. Be careful with the paper to make sure that it doesn't bleed through on your design. You could use crayons, you could use, I wouldn't suggest oil pastel, because these are going to fold together, and then oil pastel kind of smashes up against whatever you fold it against. But crayons, marker, colored pencils, any of those will. So for week 1, we're going to practice, and I want you to sketch out your design, what you think you want to do, and what you think will look good. And then I want you to practice it and see what works, because I went through and I'll show you some of my examples, and a lot of my practice designs did not work out. But then you go back to your sketchbook, and then you redesign it, and you choose the one that you want to go with. Once you've done that, I want you to add color to it in your sketchbook, and then take a picture of your sketchbook and submit it into Google Classroom. Now remember, this is supposed to be a pop-up card, so make sure you have a message. Like, for example, this one says Te amo, which just means I love you in Spanish. So think about what message you want in your card too. Think about who you might give this card to. So first, you need to take your piece of paper and fold it horizontally or landscape. And go ahead and crease it, and then make sure your flaps are up. Decide where you're going to make your cuts. They have to be symmetrical, meaning they have to be the same on both sides, so however deep you go, you got to go the same deepness on the other side. Open it up, and then you're going to push that through so that that part will pop up, kind of invert it, and then fold the card back over. For your thicker paper, when you're doing your final next week, it is a little bit more difficult. So with the notebook paper, it's easier to manipulate and kind of get the feel of it. So there you go. There's your first little pop-up. You got a little step. And then I like not being able to see my cut, so then that's what the second piece of paper is for, construction paper, if you have it. If you want to do more cuts, you can. You can take that flap, see how there's 2. Do not cut through both of them, because I'll show you what happens when this video is done. Take that first flap, make your cuts however deep you want to go. Don't go too deep, because if you go more than halfway across the paper, it will start to stick out of your design, kind of like how my heart sticks out. And then you fold that, invert it, crease it. Takes some getting used to. That's why I want you to practice it, because I had to readjust my original fold right there, so that when it opens up, now I kind of have 2 steps, kind of working on a pyramid. And then I put it on my blue backing to kind of cover that up. And then you can see the 2 steps. And what you can do is you can cut out other designs and glue that on, maybe as a part that has the message. And I'll show you that too. So for your practice, now, my 4th and 5th graders, I want you to kind of challenge yourself and really play with it. And I want you to at least make 2 tiers. For 2nd and 3rd grade, you can make just 1 tier and 1 cut. And so first I'll show you how to do that. So you take your paper, notebook paper for your practice, and then you fold it in half, landscape or horizontally. So you have your piece of paper, so it looks kind of like a card, right? Open it up, boom. And what you're going to do, fold the flaps up, and then you're just going to decide kind of where you want your pop-up to be. This is where the sketchbook and the plan comes into play, but maybe you want to cut and mess around with it first, and then you can go to your sketchbook design. That's kind of what I did. I played with the paper and the cuts first. So you don't want to go more than halfway across your paper because that's when it starts to stick out of your design. So remember, whatever I do on this side, I have to do on the other side to the same length. And the notebook paper helps you too because it has lines. So now open it up, and you want to push through your step. 4th and 5th grade, you can also try this as practice. And then you just want to squish it down, crease it, so then now it looks like this. And then when you open up the card, it pops up. So for 2nd and 3rd grade, this is the stuff that I want you to practice with. And then what you can do is you can cut out another shape from another piece of paper. This is the one that I did. I did 2 tiers, but I really didn't even need 2 tiers. I just wanted to practice with it. So then you open up your card, and then the heart is sitting right there. So this isn't part of my cut. My cut was just the rectangles. I could have gotten away with just one rectangle and then placed something on there. So 2nd and 3rd grade, that's all you have to do is one rectangle, decide a shape to cut and put on there, and I'll show you how I place that on there in the next video. But for my 4th and 5th graders, I really want you to try to challenge yourself a little bit more. So what I did when I was practicing is I first drew a heart, and then I folded it in half, so my heart design, and then if you're going to cut a heart, you can't cut all the way through, otherwise you'll just end up with a big open heart, which does look kind of cool, but you want it to pop. So you have to leave some part uncut. So I cut around to here and then stopped, and then I cut to here and then stopped. That way this whole gap is still attached to the paper. So you open it up, push your heart through, and then refold it. See, I have a little piece sticking out, but I really like the way it looks, so that's why I kept it with the blue one. And then you open it, and it kind of pops. And all I did to get this part open is I just went back to my little heart right here, pushed it back through, and then I just actually cut this whole part out. So I'll show you. Being careful not to go too close to the edge. And then I just cut that whole piece out. So now it looks kind of like this. And then I push that part back through. And with a notebook paper, it's a lot easier to fold. And then so that way it kind of pops out. And then you can place it on your either sketchbook paper that you colored or a piece of construction paper just to kind of see what it looks like. So my construction paper is big enough, hides my point. And then open it up. And there you go. So that is week 1. Just for completion's sake, I will go to the next video so that you can see how I added my little heart piece onto those blocks. So I had cut out my heart, just a flat piece of paper. And then I'm going to pause it real quick because I really didn't like how much black took up my whole piece of paper. So I just cut out around my piece of paper. And I just used tape, but you can use glue stick. Again, stapler if that's all you have. Just be careful. Probably get some help from an adult if you have a stapler. And so you just tape that on. Make sure that the creases match up. If they don't match up, it will mess up your pop-up card. And then I was trying to figure out where to place it. And I was like, oh, my heart's sticking out, so I had to scooch it back in. found out where it needs to go, so now I know. Got my tape. And then you just stick it right on that platform. So see, I didn't need that extra little peak, but I wanted to try to play around with the process. So that way, just crease it, open it, boom, your heart pops out, and it can have whatever message you want on it for your card. And that's it. So that's week 2. And before I let you go, I wanted to let you know for your upcoming art projects in January, probably, maybe February, I want you to start collecting some recyclables, because we're going to try to do some more 3D designs, kind of like our pop-up cards. So ask an adult if you can have a small box to save and start putting some recyclables in there for future projects. So for this week, as a reminder, I want you to sketch out your plan. I want you to practice with notebook paper, making your cuts, inverting the fold, pushing it through, and seeing how it looks with different colored paper. Then once you actually practice, if that changes your design, go back to your sketchbook, complete it, decide on a final, add color, add a message, and then take a picture of it with your Chromebook and attach it to Google Classroom. 2nd and 3rd grade, remember, just focus on doing the 2 cuts to make the 1 little pop out. And then 4th and 5th grade, I want you to challenge yourselves a little more and see what you can come up with. Maybe you can come up with something super fantastic. All right, that's all for this week. Adios, class.